Hi, I'm Austin, and I am going for 10k Legion in Bara. Why the hell would I put myself through that, do you ask? Well, at least in my eyes, 10k Legion is the ultimate challenge for a MapleStory account, at least PvE wise. Obviously, the Black Mage is the current ultimate challenge for endgame bossing, but for endgame account, 10k Legion is the pinnacle. Why I'm doing this, I love the feeling of progression that MapleStory has. The leveling curve, although towards the 240 to 250 range gets incredibly slow, feels really smooth. I love the feeling of progression. It's kind of why I love idle and incremental games so much, because it's progression at its basis form. It's just numbers slowly at first and then exponentially later, getting larger, and the task itself eventually getting easier. So it's a bit of a stretch considering how active training in MapleStory is, but 10k Legion feels kind of like an idle game of its own, slowly but surely increasing my Legion level until it hits that huge 10,000, that end goal. And hopefully along the way I'll find a main that I can call my own, and I can fund it up to be in those endgame boss parties. But so far I've had no luck. I've had a few 250s up till now, but none of them have truly clicked with me. Nothing has stuck with me that I want to main myself. The second most asked question that people give me is, what gear do I use for my 250s? Because that's kind of a huge question in and of itself. People don't know how much funding you need for a 250. And obviously it's different between regular servers and Bara, but I'm coming from a Bara standpoint, so all of my references will be towards playing in reg servers. The equips that I use are generalized along each character. I'm not very strong, as you can see by my stat window. It doesn't take a ton of funding to get to 250 on most classes. Heck, this is one of my stronger 250s. I just came off of playing Kana to 250, and I only had 16,000 int all the way to 250. A very, very meager amount of funding for a level 250. For my accessories, I always use drop gear. Always, 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 it doesn't matter. Always drop gear. Because the amount of droplets and node stones, as well as the mesos that you get along the way, using drop gear will more than pay off for the damage lost for not using drop gear. As well, it cuts down the funding requirement for all subsequent 250s on the account. The weapon I'm using currently, I am borrowing from a friend, Dan. He graciously allowed me to use this staff because holy cannolis, it actually makes Battle Mage so much better of a class to have a weapon with fast attack speed. It is unreal the difference. But as I scroll through these equips, you'll notice that not a lot of these are very good. Some of these are pretty good, but most of them are epic, or not epic, unique with 15% or fewer stats. And some of these aren't even unique equips. It's kind of a misconception that you need to be incredibly, incredibly strong to get to 250. It's more of a game of time than it is a game of damage. Heck, I don't even have a potable badge on this character. Most of my characters don't even have potable badges. Some would say that would hold you back, but it's pretty easy. My hyper stats are pretty simple. 10 points in damage, 8 points in crit damage. Those are the most important damage-wise, and of course 15 levels into bonus EXP, because EXP is the most valuable stat if you're grinding to 250 for 10k Legion. And my inner ability, very poorly optimized, just meso and drop rate because I wasn't able to get +1 attack speed before I got this weapon, so I just stuck with this because it's just convenient quality of life stuff. As you can see by my Legion grid here, I've got a few 250s already. A 250 Kana, who was surprisingly easy to do. She is vastly, vastly more powerful and much more fun to play since her rework. A Nightwalker, which was my second 250. My Zero, which was my fastest 250, clocking in at 13 days from 0 to 250. I am never, ever, ever going to do that again. Losing that much sleep for a 250 is definitely not worth it, but it was a fun challenge for myself to push me to see how fast I could get to 250. Then there's my Night Lord, who I got to 250 pretty much because I wanted to get use out of my Nightwalker's gear. So I just moved it over and did Night Lord immediately after Nightwalker. And then there's my first 250, my Shadower. the slowest, most difficult 250 I could have imagined starting with. She's incredibly strong base damage wise, so getting to the point I could kill monsters wasn't difficult in and of itself, but actually grinding to 250 as a Shadower was a pretty slow and miserable experience. And currently I am working on my Battle Mage to 250, since it won the poll among my guild on what class I would do to 250 next. And then following the completion of my Battle Mage, my next 250 will be my Beast Tamer, because it looks like a roller coaster of spaghetti right now, with all of its missing animations and sped up attacks. I can't wait to play the class. People ask how I go about funding my 250s. It's slow but steady at first. You want to make use of everything you can. Pretty much, if you get a Poyo and Frito portal, take it. You want those cubes. You need those cubes. You don't want to be spending money on each of these characters. You want to do this slow but steady. When there's Spell Trace Fever events, you want to make use of them. You want to do everything you can. Throw any free flames you have at gear that you're potentially looking at making. Throw any cubes you get at gear, hoping for a tier up, at least gear you're not using, and just slowly but surely build up gear. Currently I have a bunch of weapons that I'm sitting on for characters that are near completion but not quite there. The Ilium weapon is all but done. I don't know if I'm going to reroll for a second line of magic attack. I don't think I need it, considering it's plus 10 and 17 starred. I think it's good enough as is. But just slowly but surely, as you get cubes from events, Poyo and Frito, the Legion shop, or just buying them off of Alliance members that are cheap, just slowly gear up for each 250. It's incredibly cheap actually, and since 250s don't require all that much funding, try to lock yourself down as unique tier is your cap, because going for legendary, albeit you can get some insane potentials in legendary, you don't really need it, because unique is good enough. You don't need tons and tons of damage to get to 250. It's just not necessary. As for the Legion board itself, my setup pretty much always is crit damage maxed, bonus EXP maxed. Crit rate I put in as much as each character needs to hit 100% crit rate, and then I get out of it and try to put the rest in buff duration. And then obviously your main stat for the class and your main attack type for the class. Try to keep it simple. Well, that'll be it for this video. I'll probably make some videos explaining how I grind on each of my classes for 250, each of the grinding areas, how I grind, rotations. If I find out a new tactic that makes a map really good, I'll make a video on that. But I don't expect this to be an incredibly lengthy series. These are just going to be a bunch of short videos on how I did this grind and where this all ends up. So thanks for watching this rambling video. It got a little bit longer than I thought it would, but the next video I put up will be about my Battle Mages training areas, the rotations I used in each training area, and recommended node setups for those levels. Okay, see you guys later.